Hi, so today's video I thought we would mix it up a little bit, and on this channel I have talked about some trends that I'm presently into, some trends I've missed, and so I thought today I would talk about some trends that I'll be passing on slash trends I am not really into. Now, quick internet disclaimer, my intention is not to make fun of anybody if they are interested in these products or concepts. If you already own some of the items I mentioned, as always, art, fashion, all of that is so deeply personal, and my opinions about something shouldn't, alter how you feel about it. And honestly, a lot of the items on this list I don't even think are, ugly or anything like that. There's a multitude of reasons why I'll be passing on them. I just wanted to throw that in there, that it is never my intention to ruffle anybody's feathers on here. But I do think a bit of de-influencing is important every once in a while. And it's good, to practice our critical awareness and not treat everything, like it's this amazing, shiny, perfect object that we must have into our lives. It's okay to not like everything that comes into your view, because we are having so many things come into our view nowadays. So this will be a fun little, exercise and practice in that. So the first item on my list of trends that I will be skipping are Frye boots. Now, not all of these styles are equal to others in my opinion. Some of them I'm really not a fan of at all. I just don't really enjoy that thick cylindrical shape. It's kind of lifeless to me. If I were to go for one of these styles, I would definitely prefer the ones with the buckles, or that have a little bit of slouchiness to them, I guess. But I will say that Frye is a company that's been around for a long time. You can buy vintage Frye boots, so I think that this trend is less offensive than some of the others, but it is a little, irritating seeing people drop hundreds and hundreds of dollars on the same exact pair of boots that everybody else has. I get it if it's like a cool secondhand find, but seeking these boots out new doesn't really make sense to me at all. If I were to ever consider it, or advise someone who was considering it, I would definitely go for vintage or secondhand at the very least. They just don't evoke a whole lot for me, and at that price point I think I would prefer something that's, a little bit more eye-catching and personal, as opposed to the same boots that we're seeing on tons of different influencers and celebrities. I definitely prefer the motorcycle style to, I guess, the more retro silhouette, but overall they just don't do a whole lot for me, and so they're just not something I would ever seek out for myself personally. Now, my next item is definitely more of a polarizing item, I think, and those are tabby shoes. Yeah, there's quite a divide on whether they are horrific, or the cutest things that have ever graced us on the earth. Those are usually the two opinions I see. I lie more on the side of the fence of thinking that they're a bit scary. There's just something so unnerving about the shoe to me. I think a huge component of it is the fact that I'm, just super neurodivergent, and the idea of having my toes fucking compartmentalized like that sounds awful. What do you do for socks? You wear special tabby socks? Do you have to wear toe socks? Do you just shove your normal sock in between the seam of the shoe? Or do you just wear no socks? Regardless, none of those options sound like it would work for me in the slightest. But I will say, similarly to Frye boots, not all tabbies are equal in my opinion. Some of them, I just throw them away. I never want to look at them ever again. But others I think are actually kind of cute. I think I prefer the ballet flat version of all the styles, and I have seen people style them in a cute way. And I do have to admit that the idea of leaving behind a little, hoof print everywhere I go, like I'm some mythological creature, that's highly appealing to me. I like the idea of confusing the local townsfolk. So that I get. I understand the idea of incorporating fantasy and animals, and playing around with the human form in fashion. I think it's really interesting and cool, but I think tabbies are just so all over the place in terms of their styles alone. And again, with Frye boots, there's just been a complete oversaturation of them. I feel every day I get on the internet, I see a pair of tabby shoes. So yeah, I'd say they're oversaturated. And again, I'm wondering how they're so oversaturated, because these are not cheap shoes by any means. So I'm like, is everyone just all collectively agreeing to drop all this money on the same pair of shoes? I just find it kind of odd when, I guess, luxury designer items especially trend in the mainstream. And I think at this point, the novelty of them has worn off. I'm not really surprised to see them in different silhouettes, because they really have made so many different kinds. So I think this shoe has been done in every possible way that it could be done. I don't see why we need to do any more of it. And again, you know, I think this is like a personal choice. I think if you're really crazy about these shoes, you can make these work and make them really cool. But it's just one of those items where you're like, after seeing it a few times, you're like, is this cute? Or, you know, am I just being fed the same image over and over and over again? And I'm, you know, becoming a little desensitized to it now. I feel like tabbies may have had that kind of effect on a lot of people. And I'm not sure how many people we're going to be seeing wear them, you know, in the next couple of years. My next item is another pair of shoes. I guess I have a lot of beef with shoes this year. But those are Adidas Sambas. And I'm not a person that's going to shit on like any kind of style of sneaker. I think sneakers are kind of like jeans where you really have to find what works for you, and then that's fine. It doesn't really matter. You don't need to worry about things becoming outdated or not. But I definitely lean toward, you know, a Van Converse type of shoe over like the sportier shoes. I do have a pair of Adidas. I forget which kind, but I can show a picture of them. I'm too lazy to go grab them. Like, those are my Adidas, and I'm fine with those. Like, they're just a white pair. They have a little leopard print stripe on them. They're not that different from other silhouettes. I'd say they're a little bit of a chunkier shoe, but it has the same visual effect, you know, as 99% of Adidas have, which is, you know, the stripe. You see the stripe, you recognize the shoe. You know, like tabbies, it's like, how many different variations of this could we possibly need? And are the variations even, you know, that distinct? Is it necessary, or is this, you know, just overconsumption? I don't think they're an ugly shoe. Again, I see people wear them in ways that are cute all the time. But I did see this video that someone posted. I think it was in New York City, and they just like panned around the city, and like every other person was in Sambas. And I'm like, is this happening because this is just, you know, a kick-ass shoe? It's a really good fucking sneaker, and that's why people are rushing to go get it. You know, it's the most comfortable shoe. It never wears or tears or anything. Or this is probably the case. There's just an oversaturation of it. This person said it was, you know, the hot trendy item to have, and then this person said it, and then that person said it, and then it spread like wildfire, and now everybody owns these fucking shoes. And once again, it's fine if you own any of these items, or if you're even, you know, looking to purchase them now, presently. It does beg the question, you know, of critical thought. Do I really want the Sambas, or did I see 5,000 people wearing them and now I want them, you know? Sneakers aren't doing anything revolutionary. There are plenty of other Adidas styles that look just like this, and so many sneakers with different fun colorways and, you know, different customization options. There's nothing unique about the Samba whatsoever. And on to more shoes that I will not be buying. This one I'm just kind of summarizing as a dad shoe, and it's these modern, I guess, recreations or interpretations of like a 90s chunky shoe your dad would wear, but, you know, in the dorkiest fashion possible. And maybe it's because I grew up like in that time period that I, you know, disconnect from that. The only person I can like associate this type of shoe with other than dads is like maybe Princess Diana or someone like that. And again, I don't like want to rip my eyes out or something when I see these shoes, but I just think that there are so many other cuter shoe options. It's just one of those things where it doesn't click for me, where I'm like, oh, this was like not a cool thing to have. Sort of like rectangle frames, like for glasses coming back into fashion. I remember people used to get bullied for their glasses, and then, you know, hipster styles came into fashion, and then everyone started getting bigger and bigger frames. And now the, you know, people are calling it office siren or bayonetta core. So yeah, these sneakers evoke that feeling of like, oh, I stick out next to my peers because they were all in, you know, like fucking expensive Nikes. So I'd be in my Walmart sneakers that look like this, you know, comparing myself to these other cooler, more luxurious shoes, I guess. So in one way, I think the reclamation of the trend is cool. Like, I don't care that it's dorky. I don't care that it's this or that. Like, I'm wearing it for comfort or because I like it. I do appreciate that aspect of it. I just have a problem with trends in general where we're like, okay, we know that this died out of fashion, so why are we, you know, polluting the planet and spending all this money and stuff and marketing to the public to buy these shoes again when we know they're probably going to go out of fashion again? There's a certain kind of novelty to it. And maybe this is your permanent style of sneaker. Maybe this is the style that you gravitate towards always, but most of the time, I don't think that's the case. I've only really seen these shoes crop up in like recent years. And onto other shoes I have, you know, some intense opinions about. I am not here for the see-through, meshy, flat trend. Again, on a sensory level, this seems like a nightmare. I think about, your sweat getting trapped in the shoe. I can't imagine that material is comfortable at all. Cannot imagine going out on a summer day with these shoes on. And it's one thing if you have socks on with these, in which case I think I could maybe be into it. I think the see-through peekaboo element of your sock would be a fun choice, but I've only been seeing them advertised and styled with no socks, and I don't know, a lot of them they look like water shoes or pool shoes, which I wear those. You can make fun of me, I don't care. That's what it's giving to me. It's like adult water shoe. And I've seen the transparent style like extend to like those see-through clear plastic boots, and even jelly sandals I guess kind of incorporate that too. But there's just truly like no version of this that I could see myself partaking in. I think the idea of putting my foot into like something that's just straight plastic or mesh or netting or whatever sounds awful. It sounds really, really bad. I think socks could actually make some of these styles work, in my opinion. Some of the black, like netted options, they almost give the imagery of fishnets or something. So I could see that being, sort of a cool alternative piece to incorporate. But the loud, bright, like this is meant to just be a summer sandal where you see your toes through them, but not in a normal, like, oh, you're wearing a sandal, I see your toes kind of way. It's like, framing them. It's drawing quite a lot of attention to your toes. Yeah, and I don't think I have to say why. A lot of us probably are not interested in doing that nowadays. But yeah, transparent shoes, not for me. My next trend that I will be skipping are boxer shorts as shorts. I don't really get this one either, honestly. I just think it looks like boxers, and I guess that's the intention. But I just see pajamas, I just see underwear when I look at this. Maybe that sounds hypocritical because I like micro shorts and some kind of trends like that. But I think there's a difference between wearing something that's pulling inspiration from like a certain kind of silhouette, but making it more of a fashionable piece than just like straight up wearing boxers out. But I've never seen this styled in a way that has ever intrigued me to try it. Maybe lounging around the house or something, but in which case I will just put on my pajamas. I don't really think the boxers as outerwear is doing anything interesting or good, I guess. I think like pajama wear as outerwear is a little bit more intriguing, at least because you can experiment a little bit more with different textures and prints and stuff. Boxers have a pretty like universal look to them. They don't really stray outside of like plaid or solid colors, and they're all this unanimous shape. So every outfit looks the same that I see them in. And it's just giving like I'm online a lot, which I am online a lot. I mean no harm with my words. I just think the boxer shorts thing is a little too trendy for my taste, and that's why some of these trends kind of bother me, because I'm like, this doesn't feel personal, it doesn't feel creative, so I'm not sure why it has the chokehold that it does on the fashion girlies. My next item is another pair of shorts, but more widely known as jorts, and I'm talking oversized, gigantic denim shorts. This is another item that just has never appealed to me, and it doesn't feel super personal either. I think just some cool hot person wore it and everybody is like, okay, I would wear that too, which I understand. I'm a human being, so I'm not absolved of partaking in that from time to time. But it has the same like effect, I guess, as the boxer shorts for me, where like every outfit looks the same. Like no matter how it's styled, I just see jorts. Like that's all I see when I see the outfit. It just has the same impact, like no matter how many times I've seen it. And I've seen it a lot because, again, this is a very, very trendy item. Fast fashion brands are recreating this one too, which makes me kind of cuckoo because you know how many jorts there are at the fucking thrift store. You can get pants and make your own too. The thrift stores are overrun with shorts like this, and I'm sure a lot of people are thrifting them, but I'm sure a lot of people are buying them new too. So it just pisses me off to see this thing where I'm like, this is not going to last. This trend is not going to last. And then, all these brands are jumping on it anyways. Consumers are jumping on it anyways. And I do think that this is just a fad. I think if you're into baggy, like baggy is your thing, and you know that, and your style isn't gonna change outside of that. If you're like, oh, let me just hop on the jorts trend, I don't think it's gonna be something with a whole lot of staying power, in my opinion. My next trend that I will be skipping are barrel jeans. Again, it doesn't click for me. I think you have to pose a certain kind of way just to even keep the shape of the pant. And so like every product photo I see of them is just kind of awkward. I don't know. Nobody really looks super comfortable in them, it seems. There's just something a little bit, yeah, cartoonishly off about them. The proportions are interesting, I guess. I'm not used to seeing this kind of silhouette, but I just don't think it's practical, and I don't think that this is going to be, again, a style with staying power. It feels like a quick fad. Honestly, saw this trend fall off as quickly as I saw it, come into mainstream attention. I saw a few videos, people going, I got the Free People barrel jeans or whatever. And now I don't ever see them pop up again. And I'm like, oh, was that it? Did we just like sell 1,000 pairs of jeans and now everybody's over it? Kind of what it felt like. I don't see these in people's, regular fashion rotations ever. I saw a lot of promotion of them, purchasing of them, shopping for them, but not a whole lot of people styling them or wearing them out. So again, it's like, is it just creating the sensation of, oh, this hot viral product, you gotta try it? Or is this actually like something people are into? I'm not sure. But yeah, it seems like anytime there's movement that the jeans lose that defining characteristic anyways. And so it just feels like we're creating kind of a different style baggy jean for no real reason. The effect of it is kind of strange. It does seem impractical. I'm not convinced they would hold their shape, as you move throughout the day. My next trend that I will be passing on is the long denim maxi skirts. Now this one, it's a little close to home for me, as someone who has experienced a great amount of religious trauma. The Pentecostal chic is not something that I will be partaking in ever. I can give my opinions and still have room for nuance. I have seen the occasional person style this in a cool, interesting way, but the rest of the time I see them, probably just due to my fucking flashbacks, all I can think of is the sensation, the feelings, the memories that these skirts evoke for me. And so every time I see it, I'm like, ooh, I get a little jolt, honestly. So yeah, am I like a little perplexed why these are in mainstream fashion? Yeah, I am. It's like what this piece of clothing represents for me is different, and I can, remove myself from its context and be okay with other people wearing that if that's their choice to wear it. For me, this is just something that I would never want to emulate or like think about. Like, I'm fine with wearing maxi skirts. I love wearing maxi skirts. A lot of my fashion, is considered modest or whatever. So I don't even, necessarily disagree with dressing modestly. That in itself is not the problem. It's like the culture around it, right? So is a denim maxi skirt, truly this controversial of an item? I think there's room for discourse on it, yeah. But I'm certainly, not offended by this trend. I just think it's weird and kind of confusing because, again, this was not something cool when I was younger. People were ridiculed for wearing these skirts growing up. So yeah, I know a lot of people like still wear these culturally, and so it does feel, a little bit weird. I would have the same feeling, if like some kind of Amish clothing, popped up in the mainstream. There's something about the religious ties to this that just don't work for me. And since we're keeping it light, and not at all controversial, my next trend that I dislike is more of a concept, sort of an anti-capitalist one. And that is the whole old money, quiet luxury trend. Now, I think it's important to invest in solid basics to pay laborers fair wages. I think fast fashion prices are heinous and should be illegal. And we honestly should get used to paying more money for clothing again. I think it's become a huge fucking problem. Like the expectation that we have that everything should cost like $5, not reasonable when you're trying to have every part of that process of that clothing item being made, from the start to by the time it's received by the customer. Like if you're trying to do that ethically, then we need to pay more for clothes. But the thing is, you can pay a lot of money for a genuinely well-crafted piece of clothing, but you can also pay a lot of money for a piece of clothing that just gives you the appearances of that. It's not actually well-crafted, and most of the time it still is, fast fashion. So a lot of people think, oh, this item is expensive, that must mean it's better, that must mean it will last. No, not correct. You can look at fast fashion brands, you can look at luxury brands, you can compare the materials that they use, you can compare the quality of the pieces. You're not always getting what you pay for. Say most of the time you're not getting what you pay for. So I think there's kind of like a myth to the, oh, well, it's, investing in good basics. I think that's just kind of a mask to distract from kind of its more insidious roots, and, that is classism. It's wanting to wear certain brands. It's the, if you know, you know sort of thing. People who can recognize the labels will treat you differently because those people, are always looking at how to differentiate themselves from you. They don't want to emulate you. So it always confuses me when people want to emulate them. Because I'm like, oh, I don't like what this stands for, I don't like that this, plain white t-shirt I'm wearing, that it signals that I am removed from the rest of the population, that I'm above them somehow. I think that is all the old money thing really is. And I think even calling it old money is like separating itself from new money. Because when people say old money, they're referring to like generational wealth and stuff. So even just the title of it is kind of icky to me. I just so do not resonate with this concept at all. And I do agree, with high quality things that you can wear over and over again. I think it's not necessarily a bad thing to spend a lot of money on clothes. But again, it's why? Why are you spending money on the clothes? Are you doing this to embody like a certain kind of air that you think will deem you more respectable, more worthy somehow? Or do you really like this thing, And my last trend that I will be passing on is another sort of concept one, and that is just overly Y2K. So I'm talking, bedazzled things, rhinestones, like the super micro mini skirts, that kind of stuff I'm not super into. It doesn't really feel like me. And while I have huge inspirations that come from the Y2K era, and I grew up in that time, it clearly defined and impacted my style a lot. I would never partake in Y2K, I guess, in how a lot of younger people are partaking to it, where it's almost a costume of a head to toe sort of look. And I do think it's fun to pay tribute to certain eras like that, but I do wonder about the longevity of it being someone's style. If that is, what they're kind of hyper focusing on for some time, I wonder how it will carry out through time. Will they be able to make these pieces work in, 10 years' time? Of course, not every fashion piece you partake in has to work in every circumstance. I don't think that's necessarily the case. But, it's going to the polar opposite extreme where it's like, oh, it doesn't matter at all. I do think you should be considering those things when buying something. Like, is this really pretty Y2K top something that I'm actually going to wear? Or is it something I'm just drawn to because it's fun? I like the time that it embodies, I think for me, a lot of Y2K is like that, not practical for my life. And it's just not something that I would want to invest, time and money and resources in. I don't think I would get that much wear out of it. So I think when you become overly consumed in any kind of aesthetic, it's not necessarily a good thing. You'll probably never see me in a Sharpay Evans matchy style kind of outfit ever. It's just not my thing. But I do think everyone doing it looks super cute and they're having a lot of fun. But I just urge you to be mindful in how you're partaking it, because you can overdo it and you can certainly overconsume and overshop. Wow, I've been talking for a while. I got tangenty there, didn't I? You'll have to let me know if you agree with any of my opinions, and let me know some trends you'll be passing on too, or just trends you're sick of seeing, frankly. I think it's okay to dislike things. I think it's okay to not want to buy things. I think we need to practice that more just generally, as an entire human species. But I'll be saving some money by skipping out on this stuff. So thank you so much if you watched this entire video. Liking, commenting, sharing, all that stuff really helps out. And I'm very close to 2,000 subscribers. So if you're not yet subscribed, consider subscribing. Help me reach my goal. I'm really shocked that I'm even approaching that number, to be honest. So I really appreciate all of your support. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.